come by train, and they would unload and have a parade through town. They would unload over on the east side, and they'd end up over on Ellis Avenue. We're all probably in the 10, 11, 1200 block of Ellis Avenue on the south side of the street. And when you're setting up the circus, young fellas would run down and help set up the circus. And if you help set them up, they'd give you a free pass, you know, probably worth $0.25. But you got to help with the circus, and that was a lot of fun. And we also got to set up with the carnivals. In those days, they probably still do. They called people that worked in carnivals carnies, and you'd help set up the rides, and if you're lucky, they'd pay you before they skipped out of town. But it was fun setting up the carnivals. I remember one time my dad had to take me down there to get my money because they didn't pay any of the kids, and so my dad took me down there to get the money. But yeah, that was a big thing. And I can remember one time when the circus came to town, my mother took a picture of the watering an elephant at a gas station, which was just half a block from our house. And they've got this big tank at this gas station. This elephant's drinking out of that tank, and I'm standing there watching. Speaking of gas stations, we have in this town now, and this is in 2010, luckily down the road when you people might be viewing this, we don't have gasoline anymore. But there were probably, oh gosh, I kind of made a couple of notes here. There were probably 12 or 13 gas stations in Iowa Falls in the 40s and 50s. And these weren't just a place where you'd go in and get a loaf of bread. You couldn't buy a loaf of bread there to save your soul. But they were all full service gas stations. Change the oil, grease the cars, wash your cars, get gasoline. And like I say, there were 12 full service gas stations. And now you play hell getting your gas or your oil changed in your car unless you go to, there's probably 3 places in town where you can get it done. But in those days, everybody had their favorite gas station. They were all there. And also, we had like 11 or 12 car dealerships in town. Now we have one out on Dale Howard's out south of town, and he sells all the name brands. And you got to remember, in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, there were no Hondas or Kias or Jaguars or any of the foreign cars, Volkswagens, none of that. They were all American-made cars. We had a Nash dealership, we had a Crosley dealership. These are all at the same time. We had a Buick Olds dealer, we had a Pontiac Cadillac dealer, we had a Packard dealer. Packard dealer was at the present time is the drive-in bank for Iowa Falls State Bank. The Nash dealership is down there across from Camp David, where the what's there now, the printing shop.
Oh, Krog's
printing shop, yes. And we had the Hudson dealer. Hudson dealer was in the building where Carpenter's Auto Body is.
Do you remember the names of any of these dealerships?
Nash was Weldon Auto, Crosley was Mitchell Motors, Buick Olds was Barron's, Packard was Goring, Pontiac Cadillac was Shane, Hudson was Mick something, can't think of his name right off the bat. Plymouth Dodge was Braga. There was 2 Braga dealerships, one on the east side. There was a Studebaker dealer, that was Appland, and oh gosh, who had the lawnmower thing up on Camel? Camel and Appland at the Studebaker. We had a Kaiser Fraser dealership. That was Lewis Implement. He also sold implements, International Harvester. We had a SCAD, a farm dealer. We had Minneapolis Moleed. We had a Ford tractor dealer. We had an International dealer. We had a John Deere dealer. We had, there was one other, a Massey Harris dealer. So we had all kinds of dealerships there. Oh gosh, we had a Chevrolet garage called Kinsey's. Of course, I almost forgot that. And we had a Ford, Lincoln, and Mercury were all sold by Johnson Motors. So there was a lot of employment in all of those. And as time went on, and some of the car manufacturers went out of business, they just disappeared. What else do you want me to get into?
Well,
David?
let's talk.
We're on a roll there.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about.
Hey, can I tell you my carnival story?
Go ahead.
I'm going back to carnivals. One time in the 40s, late 40s, the JCs had a carnival come to town. JC's, Junior Chamber of Commerce, were always big promoters. And they had this carnival come to town, and they had quite a to-do, because we're right outside of the Baptist church, the carnival set up the Gurley show, right out in the front door of the Baptist church, and that caused quite a storm, but it got resolved. Baptists turned their heads. Life went on. You're going to get into what now?
Let's talk a little bit about your family's businesses,
Okay.
Weldon Brothers, and
Okay.
the cement business. I'll just let you
Meander on.
start about how Weldon Brothers got started and what kind of jobs they did and where they worked and.
Well, my great-great-grandfather, Levi Weldon, was the first Weldon in Iowa Falls. And he was kind of a contractor when he came to town. He built railroad bridges, things like that, wooden trestles. And he and his brother kind of got into the bridge business, and then his nephews, Ernie and Frank, and to some extent Louie, kind of took over the business and got into building bridges more earnestly. And then later on, that was Ernie and Bill, Frank, and a little bit Louie. Now Bill, William E. Weldon, my grandfather, was the one that really got the ball rolling on building bridges. He and his brother Ernie. And Ernie was an engineer, certified engineer. My grandfather wasn't, but he was very practical. And Weldon Brothers over time built every bridge in Iowa Falls. Some have been rebuilt by other concerns, but they are the ones that originally built them. I have quite a few pictures, and the dam, I have quite a few pictures of building various bridges in Iowa Falls. As we speak right now, they're tearing down the Oak Street Bridge, which was built in the 1920s, and are replacing it with a beautiful, great big modern bridge.
So was the Oak Street Bridge a Weldon bridge?
Yes, it was. As was the River Street Bridge, which has been rebuilt, Washington Avenue Bridge, the Rock Run Bridge, Rainbow Bridge over to the swimming pool, the Wildcat Glen Bridge right next door here, the one over by Fitz's, what's the name of that bridge?
Elk Run.
Elk Run Bridge. So they were all built by the family, and in fact, they built bridges all over the state of Iowa and in the surrounding counties. And Weldon Brothers, Dad and my Uncle Bob took it over when Bill and Ernie retired and died. Actually, they didn't retire; they died. And Dad was probably one of the most trusted. That'd be Dick Dick Weldon, was probably one of the most trusted and admired people in the business when he was active. And when he ran it with his brother Bob, and when they retired, they sold the business to Bob's son Brad, myself, and 3 or 4 other fellows that had worked for the company for a long time. I subsequently sold my share and got into the ready-mix business full-time, ready-mix concrete. The Weldon Brothers, Dad and Bob, had started a small ready-mix plant in Iowa Falls in 1946. In fact, it was probably one of the one of the first ready-mix plants in the state of Iowa. The other ones being in Waterloo, Mason City, and Des Moines, primarily. And they ran that until the 1950s. Late in the 50s, they sold it to myself, and that's a little after that is when I got out of the bridge business and put all my attention to the ready-mix business. And we grew up to 5 plants, and in 1991, 88, I'd had a heart attack, and I was thinking about retiring, but I knew I couldn't do that, but I at least wanted to get rid of some of the pressures, so I sold the ready-mix business. And subsequently to selling that, I retained the sand and gravel business, which is still in existence, but it's owned by my son and a couple of his brothers and sisters. So that, in a nutshell, is the business. During World War II, Weldon Brothers took a contingent up to Alaska and worked on the Alaska Highway. They worked on a couple of bridges on the Tanana River, and then also after that they worked in Sioux Falls, South Dakota on a airport, Army airport, and Scottsbluff, Nebraska on an airport. So Dad had a choice of being drafted into the Seabees or going to Alaska and working on these other projects as well, and he chose to do that. And so during the war, he was gone quite a bit, so I was the man of the house, kept the wolf from the door.
Okay.
How about a little bit about my experience with Ellsworth College?
Yeah, you have a long history. You've been on I think you've been on the board of trustees, and you're an alumni.
Oh gosh, yes, yeah.
So
go Ellsworth.
Let's talk about Ellsworth College.
Well, of course, anybody viewing this is probably going to read about Ellsworth College and its start someplace else, and it's in the history books, but it was a grand gift from E.S. Ellsworth, and my grandchildren a couple of grandkids that just graduated from Ellsworth the last couple of years, were the 5th generation people associated with the college. My grandmother taught there when she was a young lady before she was married.
And what was her name?
Her name was Wilkinson, and she came from the little town of Robertson, which is just now a little ghost town. It used to be a real town out 10 miles southeast of Iowa Falls. And she was a Wilkinson from Robertson. And she taught drama and speech up at the college. My dad went to Ellsworth, graduated from Ellsworth. I graduated from Ellsworth. I have 2 or 3 kids that graduated from Ellsworth and or attended Ellsworth, and I've had 2 grandchildren graduated from Ellsworth, and another one attended Ellsworth. So, like I say, it's been a 5th generation thing. Well, when E.S. Ellsworth started the college, when he died, he gifted the college probably 2,000 or 3,000 acres of land, and this land was, the funds therefrom were used to provide care for the college and ensure its existence. Well, a lot of that land got sold off in the period of time, and when Ellsworth gave the money, or gave the land, he set up a board of trustees to overlook these properties and to overlook the buildings up at the college. Well, they really ran that college for a number of years. And then it became a part of the school system, Iowa Falls Public School System, and a lot of the authority went over to the local school board. Well, then in the 1960s, it became a part of the area community college system in Iowa. And so it's then since been run by the board of directors of Iowa Valley Community College District. But the board of trustees still are in existence because they still look after the properties of Ellsworth on campus and the farmland up in Kossuth County. So they still have a responsibility there, and they do a lot of good things for the school yet. Things that the district can't do because they're encumbered by rules and regulations from the state, but the trustees can do a lot, and they do a lot. Jack Weitzel, who is a current trustee, has been on since he's in his 50th year. Bob Welch has been a member since '79, and I've been a member, gosh, that's scary, I'm the third longest. I've been a member since 1983. I used to sit around and look at all those old people and wondered who they are. Now I are one.
Can you tell us who all the board members are at the present time?
Wow.
Can you reel them off?
Sure.
The ones that you haven't named?
There's Judy Barheit, Darwin Miller, Jack Weitzel, John Dolan, Virginia Stockdale, oh gosh, the lady that works up at the Mary Beth Lawler, Don Pfeiffer, myself, Gary Huffman. How are we doing here? We're doing pretty well, aren't we? And others.
Okay. What, over the time you've been on the board of trustees, what are the major things in the growth of Ellsworth that really stand out in your mind?
Well, one thing is the scholarship funds. Ellsworth also developed a foundation, and between the foundation and the Ellsworth Board of Trustees, we've been able to fund about $250,000 worth of scholarships a year, and I think that's a big accomplishment. Another thing has been the growth of the campus. The trustees at one time owned all the buildings. For a matter of convenience, some of the buildings have been sold to the district, like a couple of the dormitories, and the newer buildings have all been built by the district with the help of the trustees donating land for these new buildings.